This episode of Deep Thrones, we review House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 1, A Son for a Son. We get set as Westeros plunges into civil war. We break down the infamous blood and cheese scene, and Sims and I wish all the dads of Westeros a happy Father's Day, plus many more hilarious segments. Winter is here.
Check out the hand, switch, shoes, and it's dope. Miss, already just had to turn me up to my list. Bitch, death wish, not to be messed with, tested quiz. They shooting shots, hitting bricks.
Welcome to Deep Thrones, the most entertaining podcast in the world of Ice and Fire. I'm Sims, my partner Sheedy's here. What's up?
Hey gang, we're back.
Dude,
oh
we're
my
back.
God, it's like Christmas.
It is. You know, there's something different about, you know, of course we did the Westeros stories and all that stuff,
yeah.
but like, there's something about the flagship product coming back.
This is the OG. This is the first thing we ever did before there was ever a Midweek Mayhem or a Westeros Stories. Before we were breaking down trailers, we were just covering episodes.
Just covering episodes, and we're back to the bread and butter.
This is, you guys, bread and butter is a classic. Don't even get me fucking started on bread and butter.
People forget how good butter is.
Oh, yeah, especially on bread. It's great on everything, but you ever just like, my mom used to, when she'd make my lunches when I was young, sometimes I would ask for just like a side baggie of bread and butter. And we're back. We're so hot. We're so hot on the pod.
Just like that. You guys didn't miss anything.
What's going on in the world? What's like?
Well, you know,
should we just get into it, or do you want to talk a little bit?
No. Let's start with congratulations to good friends of the pod, TJ and Kayleen.
Yes, Kayleen, who was a guest last season.
Yes.
They just got married, and we both had I want to say, like, I love weddings, but that one, man, was fun.
So fun. Elite squad. Stayed up probably way too late.
Chris has been awake for 37 hours.
But we're rolling. We got the Miller lattes getting us back on track.
Yes, it's a big weekend. Obviously, the wedding, House of the Dragon, and of course today, Father's Day.
Oh yeah!
It's a big happy Father's Day to you, Chris, as a dad.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, I have a dog, but I'm not one of those people who's like, I'm a dog dad, Father's Day. I can't stand that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, because you just brought it up. So do you want me to say happy?
No,
Father's Day?
I don't want you to. But if people listening want to,
you want to slide in the DMs.
It's not easy. But so, what was your first, like, other than being painfully hungover? What was your first Father's Day? Like, obviously didn't do anything. Very young. But.
Yeah, we went on a walk. We hung out in the park, and then it started raining on us.
Did it? Oh yeah.
Which was actually kind of fun because she hasn't like been out in puddles and stuff. It was fun.
Well, it's weird. There's like this weird transition too when you're a kid, when you love being in the rain, but then when you become a teenager, it's like the worst thing ever.
Yeah,
fit
when they got to start styling their hair and clothes and stuff.
Yeah, but from on behalf of the Deep Thrones pod, congratulations TJ and Kayleen, and congratulations to all the fathers out there. Happy Father's Day. We hope it was everything you thought it would be and more.
Hashtag Maury.
Hashtag Maury, that's right. That's right. And also, before we get started into this episode, this week we are doing Midweek Mayhem, but we've rebranded.
We've rebranded to Deeper Thrones.
Deeper Thrones. We're going to be providing deep knowledge.
We're providing deeper knowledge, and it's behind-the-scenes focused. But we also, of course, have our patented fun game in the episode, so won't be that serious. But
no, we're going to keep it light, but we're going to learn about some behind-the-scenes stuff in the making of Episode 1, maybe answer any lingering questions from that episode. We usually get more intel. Reddit is usually a good source for that, but we're more entertaining, so don't go to Reddit. We'll just tell you what we read.
And this is where we'll drop the plug. Please follow, subscribe. Deep Thrones is on all your podcast apps. Yes. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're on Twitter.
YouTube.
Oh, I'm sorry, X. YouTube.
Dude, Elon's coming for us now, man. We're about to get. He's gonna buy us.
Did you see that Twitter apparently made porn legal now?
I saw that. Yeah, I didn't. I thought it always was.
It was. A thing on it's Twitter. Always on Twitter.
But now it's just like they're like, as a company, they're like, do it. Go ahead, do it.
Just crank stick on Twitter.
On Twitter, why not? But yeah, I think, look, we're so efficient. All the housekeeping stuff out of the way. And then boom, we can just get into it.
And then we can just get into the review.
All right, so if you guys are new to Deep Thrones, buckle up. We're about to blow your minds. The intro starts, and it's, of course, that same classic Game of Thrones music, but a new tapestry, like a different... The world's not popping up. We're not swinging around like the map. It's a tapestry of Targaryen history.
Yeah, and there were some really cool kind of tie-ins they had there. They showed the Doom of Valyria. They showed the Aegon's conquest going to Westeros.
The Great Council.
They showed Jaehaerys and the Great Council, and then they showed actually like an Alicent made the tapestry too.
Yeah, of course she would. She was married to King Viserys. Why wouldn't she?
Yeah, but like second wife, like.
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, listen. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, in the grand history of like the Doom of Valyria and Aegon's conquest, to have Alicent make that same thing is
probably
like
a big tapestry. They had to fill in a lot. Was Rhaenyra on there? Did we see?
Yeah, she was across from Alicent.
Gotcha. For Deeper Thrones 2, we will probably even have more intel into that tapestry. I'm sure everyone's combing through it with a magnifying glass.
Definitely.
From there, we open in the woods, and at first I was like, oh, are we in the Kingswood? Are we outside King's Landing? But we sort of swoop up. We see a lot of snow. We're north. We're at the Wall. Craig and Stark's doing a little voiceover about, how important the Wall is to Stark culture, to Stark history, and Jace is there.
Yeah, and we'll run through this scene, and we can kind of give our thoughts afterward, because we'll give our thoughts afterward, but Jace and Cregan are talking about essentially having the Starks back the Blacks' kind of cause here.
Yeah.
And Jace is directly appealing for men in their army, and Cregan's basically saying, we have to guard against all the spooks and ghouls and, I don't know.
All the monsters that are north of the Wall that Jace says. He's like, listen, we don't care about wildlings. And Cregan kind of has a good comeback where he's like, do you think my ancestors built this wall to keep 700 feet tall to keep out men? Like there's something worse beyond this wall.
It's funny, too, that even back then they were still ominous about it. Like,
yeah.
Instead of just saying, like, there's these zombies who try to attack the Seven Kingdoms every now and then.
The Starks are terrible at that. They're so bad at... They're very bad at PR. If the Starks had a good PR person, dude... I was actually watching Game of Thrones today to prepare for House of the Dragon just to get the juices flowing a little bit, and that's honestly, PR is a big part of their game. They're terrible at it. You got to flip and reverse bad news, and they just don't do it very well.
They're really bad flipping and reversers.
Very bad. I wasn't crazy about the scene. I like Cregan Stark. I like the vibe. The actor did a really good job. Jace is coming in hot. I think he's a really talented actor. But just like... Jace is like, you did swear an oath, and he's like, yeah, I know, like we did, we're with you guys, we swore the oath. And I was like, man, I would love to have seen a little leg pulling, a little grab ass, little earn it a little bit.
It's so from what we saw, I thought it was, like you said, well acted, and I didn't necessarily have a problem with any of the dialogue that we saw.
No, me neither.
I thought there was a missed opportunity in building that relationship from when Jace landed at Winterfell.
Yeah,
we were talking about this before we started recording this, but it would have been really cool to see like a court. Jace lands, he walks into the big Winterfell hall,
and he's sitting at the table, waiting for Jace.
And Cregan's kind of playing hard ass, like but instead they completely skipped this bond that they form. In the books, they say that like they become true friends.
They're close. Even Rhaenyra says last season, you're close in age. Hopefully you can find some common ground. Like there was no bro stuff. I thought for sure maybe they'd like wrestle each other a little bit.
Go hunting or something.
Or maybe just wrestle a little bit. And the other thing about that scene, and I know we're sort of focusing on the first scene a lot, but I think that scene deserves it.
It does have ramifications for the rest of the show.
Of course. And we might not see Cregan again the rest of this season, which is funny. But this is, like Sim said, it's huge. But that being said, this was his second stop. And they just sort of were like, fuck it with the earring.
Yes.
But we know that actress is in this season. But that, it's weird. A weird move. But, I mean, I get it. But, man, the show with time jumps and pacing, I get it. But it's hard to be a showrunner. But stuff we'd like to see.
I'm usually, season 1, I was all on board with skipping some things because otherwise it would have been painstakingly slow.
Yeah.
I think those moments where you meet someone of a highborn family and you're pleading your case, like, those to me, like, I kind of always get chills when you see, like, a court.
Oh, for sure.
So I thought it was a missed opportunity, like you said, skipping over the Veil of Aaron, not having the introduction to Jane Aaron shown on screen.
Right.
And then, again...
The history of Aegon's conquest, you mentioned this to me before the recording about how it's sort of the juxtaposition of the first time the dragons came to the Vale and we're like, hey, what's up? You're gonna bend the knee, right?
Yeah. So essentially, like, the Eyrie is supposed to be this impregnable castle, and they didn't think anything. The Aarons didn't think anything was going to happen when they found out that these dragons showed up on Westeros soil. Yeah. And then, like, literally one of the next days, they just have a dragon fly into their like center plaza, and they're like, "Well, shit."
And the ruler was a woman, right?
Yeah.
It was the queen, like the Queen of the Vale or whatever. I don't know if she went by that. But
Queen Regent.
Yeah, she runs into the room where the moon door is to, like, see the dragon, and I think it was a Visenya has the Queen of the Vale's, like, son in her lap, and she's being nice to him, but very much a show of, like, I could break this kid over my knee right now.
And that's like. There's so much in a scene like that. Like, you have two mothers that are, like, kind of bonding over this kid.
Yeah.
Right? You have vulnerability that was never felt before from the Aaron side. So, like, that's just an example of what these introductions can bring.
Can be like, yeah.
And I feel like skipping out on that was a wasted opportunity.
I also feel like, if it was a situation where it was a 10-episode season and it wasn't in, I'd be like, wow, they were really strapped for time. But it's an 8-episode season.
8-episode season.
HBO, I'm coming for that ass. If you continue to,
And some of the run times are longer and shorter, so it's like...
It's weird, yeah.
Don't tell me that you couldn't have fit that in, so... but so we spent almost 10 minutes on the first scene. I love that.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, Cregan has graybeards. A raven arrives. Luke is dead. He's super sad about it. Obviously, Jace is not happy that he finds out Luke is dead at Winterfell. Mm-hmm. And then Rhaenys flies back to Dragonstone on Meleys from patrolling the Gullet, and her and Daemon have a little chit-chat.
Yeah, so Daemon, you can already tell, is kind of unhinged right now.
He's off his wagon, if he ever was on one.
And he's supposed to be like the strategist, the experienced commander and stuff, and he's just like so angsty and like...
Yeah. So he's
almost childish.
He is literally like, there's no strategy. There's entirely no strategy. He's got no plan. It's just like, she shows up and he's like, yo, listen, hop on Meleys, me and you right now. We'll just go to King's Landing. We'll kill Vhagar. If Aemon's on it, great. If not, we'll just kill it. And she's like, well, Rhaenyra has not told us what to do. Rhaenyra is off grieving right now. And I agree, being absent in this moment is probably not great.
Yeah.
But so that's, that conversation is happening. Then he throws smoke at Rhaenys for not killing them when she had the chance, but kind of indirectly blames her for Luke's death. It's like, bro, take a breath. I agree, Rhaenyra should be there. That's, again, absentee queen. But it's, blaming Rhaenys for anything is a little far-fetched.
And then Rhaenys has a great line, too, where he like demanded that she did something, and she was just like, yeah, if only you were the king, and walks off.
And that hurt Daemon. Nice. He wanted to be king.
Oh, yeah.
He wanted to be king, dude. He wanted to be king.
Also, in that like half-fledged plan, they didn't even account for like Aegon and
Sunfire.
And Sunfire, yeah.
Or like the fact that like they're definitely expecting that, so there's probably scorpions and all sorts of stuff on the battlements. Rhaenyra's grieving at Storm's End. We just see her grieving. This is before sort of her she has a bigger moment at Storm's End a little later, I believe. Mm-hmm. But right now, she's just sad.
Yeah, it was a very quick cut.
They said that this first episode, when I was reading the reviews, is very dour and sad. And it was. A lot of crying. Yeah. A lot of crying. Mm-hmm. Luke, I don't think, is worth that much grief.
The guy's, he's just a young boy.
You got to do it for appearances early. But after like 3 days, you can kind of move on, I feel like. We get a little look at Corlys. He's building up his ships. I'm really happy about that scene. I loved that scene because I think for some reason I was worried that there would not be enough Corlys time and like the outside players. We talked about this with Larys and Mysaria. They all were in the mix. Mm-hmm. And we meet a new character.
Alan of Hull is shown here. It seems like they have a pretty deep history. Corlys mentioned, Corlys mentioned that he dragged his body out of the sea
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that was at a battle in the Stepstones.
I love that he's a boat maker and his last name is Hull. That's the bottom of a boat.
Yeah.
That's fun. What was it? Atom of propeller.
Atom of starboard.
I love that. He got that little Lucerys sword too. That was another sad moment.
That was touching. Especially since when we look back at season 1, like there was a big debate whether Luke would be named the heir to High Tide and Driftmark.
But he was steadfast that he should be.
Yeah.
You know, he always backed those boys. And he said, and I watched Steve Toussaint do an interview, and he said, the show's standing on Corliss's regard. He knows that they're not his grandsons, but he actually loved them. He really did.
Yeah.
He probably had a lot of grandpa time with them,
I mean, Laenor loved him. I think that
I did yell that. Laenor did, for sure. We see a little King's Landing war prep with Arik Cargill. It's Arik on the green side, Eric on the black side. A dragon's coming, so that the Scorpions up top on the battlements get ready. But the dragon is Vhagar, so he's just patrolling King's Landing, keeping my king safe.
I will say, as much as I just went ham on some of the omissions that I think they made early on in this episode, I think that this stuff really goes further than, for example, season 8 of Game of Thrones, where you actually see defenses being taken. I mean, it makes sense, right? They're getting ready to go to war with dragons,
For sure.
So I like to see that type of stuff. I love to see, like you said, the ship being rebuilt, and then they're talking about actually blocking off all the trade, going through the gullet into King's Landing. So the attention to detail there gives me a lot of confidence as we look further into the season. So we'll see what happens. But I
agreed.
Yeah, I thought the omissions in the beginning were kind of meh. But.
I agree. It was weird. And then, this next scene, of course, Aegon and Helena are in their chambers. He's having this is really good. You're going to hear this the rest of this episode. The Aegon character building this episode was so strong. Aegon came out hot, looking all right, not looking like a bad king by any stretch.
Yeah.
Him and Helena have a moment. He wants to take their son, Jaehaerys, to the small council meeting. But a lot of Aegon, a little bit of levity, too. Aegon was very funny. He's just a young dude who's, enjoying being king,
He's a bro.
He is a bro.
I feel like Aegon should guest star on this podcast.
I agree. Yo, Tom Glencarney, you should guest star, man. We met once. Actually, on that wall right there. We did meet once.
Bad radio.
Radio.
Watch the YouTube version.
And you still
also
won't see the
kind of
picture.
bad.
Yeah. I'll post it. I'll just post it on the Instagram.
Yeah, whatever.
All right, this next scene was inappropriate, and I want to handle it delicately. So how do I word this? Kristen eats out Allison.
Dude, he was just munching box.
It was weird. They just went right in, and it's funny. I didn't have this on my radar for this season at all.
But when I saw that scene open up and Allison's getting eaten out by someone, you can't see the face. You just knew it was... No, you knew it was Kristen. Just Kristen Cook getting down there.
For sure. Kristen Cook. I guess not anymore, man. Well, but he didn't get his,
Yeah, I mean,
He's merely a conduit.
More like Kristen the Giver or something.
Kristen the Giver. I like that, yeah. That's very, honestly, a generous lover. What's better than that, Nice guy. But she essentially is using him like a human sex toy.
Doesn't get much better than that.
It doesn't get much better than that. But he does his thing, and it's good to see Allison relaxing in these times of stress. You get that post.
Yeah, it's pretty good to see.
You get that post Kristen clarity. And
so I love how he just continually gets used.
By strong, powerful women.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's constantly, literally.
He's just he's a magnet for abuse.
He is, but he doesn't help himself out, but we're still cool, Kristen, it's fine.
Are we victim blaming?
No, I'm not victim blaming Kristen Cook. I think in a lot of ways, he's not necessarily a victim. I think he wants to be used, you know what I mean? So that he can use it then. He can use the use.
Yeah, but honestly, it just seems like he really wants a girlfriend.
Yeah, it does.
It seems like he really wants.
Yeah, he's not doing too good.
He wants
I would say Allison counts right now because they have another scene later. He's.
Yeah, but she said we can't do this.
Oh, yeah, but we've all heard that before. It's how it starts. Next thing you know, you're getting a timeshare in Cabo.
He wants a hug more than, like, you know.
You think he's that guy who shows up to the party? He's like, hey, where's my hug?
Yes.
Oh, God.
That's Kristen.
Not good for Team Greens, but Team Greens are doing great in other places. We have an Aegon small council meeting. A couple big things happen here. One, what's the Lannister's name? He's being a piece of shit.
Tywin Lannister.
He's arguing with Jaehaerys over, like, the small council ball thing. And it kind of pisses Aegon off, and Aegon's like, why don't you give him, like, a pony ride? And they stop him before he can, like, bully this man into... Because there's urgent business. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, Otto is like, straight up, the North and the Vale are not answering our emails.
Yeah, they're not answering the call.
Yeah, they're going to spam.
Again, like, there's moments within this episode where I get a lot of confidence with where the rest of the season, where the rest of the show is going to go. This is one of them where... You see a large difference. Like, when they talked about the pony ride, I thought they might just, like, have Tywin do it, and my head immediately went to, like, Joffrey comparisons.
Right.
But him kind of, like, being like, all right, it's not that serious.
Yeah.
So it shows that Aegon kind of has his own unique personality.
Yeah.
Which I've loved in this episode.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. The Aegon, like I said, the Aegon character building was the star of episode 1 for sure. Rhaenyra acted her balls off in episode 1 as well, but she wasn't like, she didn't do too much. You know what I mean? Yeah. A lot of grieving. To note, they don't have the North and the Vale, but they do have the West, obviously, with the Lannisters. They have Old Town, and they're pretty sure they have the Stormlands as well. Aemon rolls up and kind of echoes what Daemon has been echoing since late last season, which is the Riverlands are essential. And of course, a lot of timidness out of Otto and Alicent to Aegon and Aemon's not timidness.
Yeah, Aegon and Aemon are ready to rip it up. It was interesting seeing Aemon's thought process being exactly what Daemon's is, and he's actually a little less aggressive than Daemon was earlier in this episode, but. It does, like, show that Aemon knows what he's talking about as a strategist, even though he hasn't ever technically been to war.
Right. He gets it, though. Alicent then treats with Larys. Larys has put, like, entirely new... like, he grilled the entire staff of King's Landing. He's got his own people in there now. He's like, don't worry, my staff is top-notch. But she has some trepidation.
Yeah, and we theorized that no one on Alicent's staff was actually part of the group that betrayed. And by the betrayal, I believe what they were referring to was word slipping out to Dragonstone that Viserys was dead.
Yeah.
Before they planned on telling them.
For sure. Because they locked Rhaenys in, but obviously someone let her out. Like, a lot, she got to melee, so they're sort of in damage control mode.
But we theorized that Larys just killed her entire staff, Alicent's staff.
To put his own,
To put his own people in, even though Alicent's staff was loyal, so...
Yeah, he did that because he wants eyes and ears everywhere, but as we'll see with something that happens later in this episode, he might get a little heat because of, you know, the staff that do too hot, week 1.
The staff... Actually, yeah, we'll get to that, but good thought.
So they find the people when Rhaenyra was grieving at the Storm's End earlier in the episode. Those fishermen find a wing. They pull the wing ashore, and Rhaenyra flies in on Syrax and is like, "Give me that."
People are like freaking out. They're like, "Dragon!"
Yep.
But this was a very touching moment.
Emma D'Arcy, they kill it. Like the crying, the absolute total grief on their face. Absolutely amazing performance.
I mean, I think verbally they only had 2 or 3 lines the whole episode.
I think so. I think it was just, I want Aemon Targaryen, I think was it.
Yeah, and just a powerful performance.
All around, yeah. And the cast as a whole, like I think I've said this to you, that the cast, I think this cast has done better than the Game of Thrones cast. I'm not throwing shade at all. Game of Thrones cast was historic, and all of them were great, but 2 very titular characters in Game of Thrones, Jon Snow and Daenerys, sometimes had moments for me. To each their own. But for me, I won't go too far into that because I love those people.
But remember, like, peak King's Landing court with Baelish and
that's where it's like, well, that in the Charles Tyrion. Dance, who plays Tywin Lannister, is and then of course Olenna. Oh, you know what? I take it back. I gotta take it back because the great outweighs anything negative because it isn't even that bad. It's just some stuff you're like, eh.
But then, like, Euron comes into the picture and just, like, throws all...
Now I'm back this way. You're right. I'm swinging like a pendulum. I don't know. Aegon takes the throne, and he's doing some council business. Or I guess he's doing kingly business. And it's so funny. So we can just run through a lot of this. But, like, 3 different people are coming with, like, yo, I need my sheep back, or I need salt, I need this. And he's just kind of like, yeah, we'll give you all that shit. Yeah. And every time he says it, Otto just slowly walks up the stairs and is like, Your Grace, like, you can't do that.
So first of all, I loved this scene from start to finish.
Again, Aegon building.
With the herald or whatever, it's saying King Aegon the Magnanimous.
Magnanimous, yeah.
And Aegon just like looks over, he's like, the Magnanimous. I can't even say that.
The Magnanimous. Magnanimous. And he's like, he hates it. Because like also no one knows what it means. And he's like, magnanimous.
And then, you're right, like, the first problem that happens with a sheep herder, like losing 10 of his sheep to the crown.
Yeah.
And
because they're feeding him to dragons for sustenance.
And Aegon goes, let's just make him whole, give him his sheep back. And then Otto just slithers on up, like, hey, like, if you do this, everyone's going to know that you did this.
But Aegon goes, no one's going to, how are they even going to find out?
That was so funny.
And he's like, but we can't do that. And he's like, but he came all this way.
Yeah.
So it was great. And Hugh Hammer shows up too about the
Smiths and not being able. He basically asked for payment up front before he makes all these weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is gonna show. So Hugh Hammer, we'll see him later on in the season. That's gonna be something. That's a good like character trait that we saw a little bit.
Yeah.
So just keep an eye on that. But by the end of this scene, like, Otto's just basically rolling over. Like, he's just like, dude, like, how am I gonna...
Yeah, Aegon is not a vicious guy right now by any stretch, but he's not a good king because he's just like, let's just a kind of Viserys-esque of like, just make everyone happy. Yeah. You know? But again, quick shout out to George R.R. Martin. Anytime you read his writing, there's always an economic toll to everything. And this is the example of that. This is an example of the economic toll of war. They're already feeling it. The fucking blockade is essentially in effect from Corlys and Meleys. So, very cool.
And that goes a long way. Like, when you have a show that has multiple dragons in it and Game of Thrones with zombies in it, it's like... To have it be believable, you need scenes where you're talking about economics and
or a little bit
politics.
Or a little bit of cunnilingus.
That too.
Aegon meets with Larys. Larys gaslights Aegon against Otto a little bit, and he's kind of like, why are you keeping your dad's hand to the king, bro? And Larys knows Aegon's a bro, so he's like, bro, that's totally not cool, dude. You gotta fucking fire that, bro.
Larys is like wearing a backwards hat.
He's like, yo, how do you do, fellow kids? Like that meme. And I just want to give I love the Greens. I'm Team Greens, but man, they are the easiest people to gaslight in the entire world.
I mean, they're new to the game, you know?
Larys is like, what if you fired Otto? And he's like, say no more, fam.
Yeah. But I think there was already some lingering resentment between Otto and Aegon, and definitely Aemond.
Oh, yeah. They're laying it on thick.
So Larys is taking advantage of that situation.
Yeah. Otto and Alicent have a great little powwow.
Yeah, so this was an interesting conversation. Alicent felt that she was dissed, essentially, by Otto in the small council meeting earlier.
Yeah.
And it's basically like Alicent saying, like, if we're going to do this, like, we have to be on the same page. We have to do it together. The only way we're going to control Aemond is, like, by being on the same page together. And Otto kind of seems like he agrees with her, but I also don't really buy that. I feel like he was just, like, appeasing her.
Yeah, I was on the same page. I didn't believe it for a second. I didn't think... She was like... Every time she said, like, this is what I want, he was like, same. Mm-hmm. And I don't think so at all, because he's indicated the opposite multiple times, dating back to last season.
And they both recognize here that the only path to victory is war.
Yep, it will require violence. Mm-hmm. Corlys's fleet boards a ship that is like in the bay, and they're like near Dragonstone. Myseria's on it. She's like a stowaway trying to get to Dragonstone, I guess, to see if like, I guess she's having a rough time.
Yeah, she didn't look good.
No, she treats with Daemon. Daemon's like wants nothing to do with her. But then Eric Cargill is kind of like, well, she's telling the truth. Like she wasn't a kingmaker. She just kind of like got paid out of it. Like,
she got paid, and she was upfront about it. She said, I did what he paid me to do.
And then Daemon gives him some sauce for not killing Aegon.
Yes, and I love Eric's comeback because Daemon was basically questioning, like, you helped put Aegon on the throne. Like, why didn't you just kill him to begin with? And Eric says, we swore a vow to protect the whole royal family.
Yeah.
Like, what did you want me to do?
What were we supposed to do when they turned on each other kind of thing? Like, from there, Rhaenyra returns. We hop across the narrow sea. We didn't. It's the same.
We didn't.
It's the same. Rhaenyra returns to Dragonstone.
But my ears perked up when you said that.
Hey, that's a throwback. It's a deep cut to old Deep Thrones, back when we were still young. Rhaenyra returns to Dragonstone. She just walks straight to the painted table. As she's like coming around the table, Daemon is like, "With your leave, your grace, I will go to the river run, to the Riverlands and River Run and Harrenhal, and I will bend the knee." And then Rhaenys is like, "I'm patrolling the Gullet. This is the situation of the blockade." Mm-hmm. And Rhaenyra finally kind of like stables herself behind the painted table and just says, "I want Aemon Targaryen." And then she just fucking walks out. Yeah.
This was a great scene too because, Rhaenyra was, and we talked about this at the end of season 1. Like, how is she going to react to Luke dying? Like, is it going to be a strong let's do this, or is she going to be grieving for a long time?
We'll do both.
We see that it really is a grief process, and she's one track mind, like revenge.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was just disagreeing about her grieving for like 2 weeks. Again, 3 days tops for a guy like Luke. Jace, you can maybe do 2 weeks. Luke, 3 days, and you're fine.
All right. Well, we'll ask you at the end of this episode how many days of grieving are appropriate.
We're gonna for Luke 3 days. we'll do a poll on IG. How long would you guys grieve for Lucerys if he was your child? Daemon and Mysaria throw a plot into the mix to essentially assassinate someone. Aemon Targaryen is who the assassination attempt is going to be for. There's a lot of moving parts and scenes here. So long story short, Daemon gets smuggled into King's Landing into the invisibility cloak that he always wears. He meets a guy who's a big ol' beast in the city watch. I assume that's blood. And then they introduce him to the rat catcher.
The rat catcher is very ratty, very slimy human being.
He lives up to the name rat catcher.
And they essentially get right to work. One scene that was very touching in between this was when Rhaenyra and Jace, Jace comes back to Dragonstone.
Yes.
And Jace is essentially just giving a report of how his travels went. The Vale's committed to their side.
Yes.
The Starks committed some men to their side.
The Vale in the north of yours, your grace. And he's got tears in his eyes. Rhaenyra's bawling because they're just thinking about Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, this was, it was a powerful scene. And, to what you were just saying, it was well acted. You actually felt, even though, feel how you feel about Luke, you felt bad for Jace and Rhaenyra in this moment.
He's the Rickon of the family. But yeah, no, I did. I really did. I turned to you when we were watching and I said, the powerful acting of Emma Darcy and Harry Collette, I think his name is, it really got to me, seeing them cry and have that moment. I was like, damn, that sucks. Well acted.
Jace being the heir to the throne, oldest son, he's trying to keep a strong face and keep it together. And Rhaenyra knew from the moment that he walked in that he needed a huggy.
For sure he did. So that was a great scene. He also, Alicent, we see that they do a little Luke funeral. Alicent's praying and she prays for Luke. It was a cool scene. Not much there, but that was nice.
One thing I had to note on that scene, they're both kind of grieving. Alicent also grieves for some of her staff members that were killed. Obviously Rhaenyra's there grieving for Luke, but the kind of reasoning behind it, one side was the main actors and everything.
Yeah, the blacks.
No, the greens.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood.
But you watch, it's juxtaposed, but you watch the Rhaenyra scene and you're actually oh, that sucks. And then you watch the Alicent scene and it's well, you employed this guy who murdered his own family. Mm-hmm. What did you think was going to happen to your people?
Yeah.
Then
are you saying when Alicent was praying, she was being disingenuous? She was trying to gaslight the gods?
No. I'm saying I didn't have any sort of sympathy or anything. Because her decisions made all that happen.
Well, it takes a strong person to forgive, Chris.
It does. Stronger than me.
No, I agree.
We're a strong
person. I agree. You're right. It was a little... but so, going back, Aemond is the target of that blood and cheese assassination. Mm-hmm. But at the very end, they go, what if we can't find him? And Daemon sort of smirks and it cuts. Remember that. Just remember it. Otto shows up, has a little chat with Aemond after Aemond was talking to Kristen. And just tells him, like, relax a little bit.
Yeah, Aemon's already strategizing what this war is going to look like. Kristen Cuck is listening. He doesn't really give...
That's a trademark, by the way.
He doesn't really give defining, decisions here.
Yeah.
But, they are kind of building up this, like, Aemon is very capable. Mm-hmm. He's very intentional, and he's, this...
Wise.
This wisdom beyond his years, but also this... rivalry with Daemon, right?
Yeah, he has ambition too.
Definitely.
He's no Jon Snow. He wants it. He wants the
throne. He wants the smoke.
Yeah, and he's gonna get it eventually. I think that smoke. But Kristen, I think, is a character that I'll be honest. Like, there's really no development this episode. Like, even with his partakes with Alicent, like that is a sort of a plot vehicle thing. It almost is more about Alicent than it is him.
Yeah,
he's sort of a blank face individual for me right now in terms of like really what motivates him. Is he just wanted to go with Rhaenyra to Essos to get those fucking oranges or whatever he was talking? Like, is that it?
He really wants a girlfriend. Like those people that just need to be in a relationship at all times, and it's just like, ugh, brother, ugh.
I'm the opposite. I need to be out of one at all times. So Blood and Cheese do their thing. They get into Maegor's tunnels, which connects into Maegor's Holdfast. And they get a little lost. This isn't all really important. They kind of have a little infighting. They see Aegon and his boys drinking at one point on the throne. They just walk past him with the rat stuff, like, we're just here to catch rats.
I want to hang out with Aegon.
I told you, dude. Green's up. Let me tell you something. We're going to get him over to my side by the end of this season. He's going to be Team Green.
I mean, Aegon's probably the least Team Green out of the Team Greens. Like, he said he didn't want the throne. He respected Rhaenyra's claim.
He did, but not anymore. And it's to war. So,
that's true.
I mean, you're going to have to deal with that. And long story short, Blood and Cheese get super lost. They finally find their way into a room. It's not Aemon's, it's Helena's. And they get confused as to which kid's the older son. They don't believe her, and then they believe her. They murder the son. They didn't show any of it, of course. The kid is very small.
Yeah, I was very happy they didn't show it.
No, it was like off camera, but they did like crazy slicing noises, but you didn't see it. Helena grabs her other child and runs off. Those guys were there for business. They stuck to the business. They didn't chase her down or anything. And she goes into Alicent's room where she is making sweet, passionate love to Kristen. Cole is his actual name. And obviously Alicent and Kristen are like, hey, can you knock? But they also are like, yeah, I don't think Alicent wanted her to see that, obviously. And then she just sits down and says they killed the boy.
Very gruesome scene. It was, I mean, this is going to sound fucked up with how gruesome of a scene it was. But it was really cool to see this kind of pivotal moment that have been in the books for, years being played out on screen.
For sure.
Seeing the kind of infighting and dysfunction of how Blood and Cheese were, and kind of how it led up to that.
It added a lot of realism for me.
Yeah,
you're not hiring. These aren't top. This isn't hitmen assassins from James Bond. Like these are grimy dudes. This guy's a rat catcher. Mm-hmm. The other guy is sort of just a city watch. kind of a big bloke who probably just bops guys with an anvil, like he's working in a Looney Tunes cartoon. So these guys go in there. They have no clue where they're going. They didn't have and I thought that added so much realism to it. This is how this would be.
Like you kind of see like the fog of war happening as they're going through. And it was also interesting in the books. They never said Aemond was the target. So it was cool to see that kind of play out. But yeah, I feel really bad for Helena. She seems like she truly seems like an innocent in this whole scheme.
She clearly is, she has maybe a bit of a personality disorder that she deals with. So she had like a hard time in that scene dealing with it. Was crying and she just didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. Do you think, I have a question, and them throwing that Damon part in there, or I'm sorry, the Eamon part in there in the Damon conversation, is that the showrunner's way, again, of making the blacks look not as bad?
It could be, but I also, to me, like, I think that Eamon being the target makes more sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, especially on the heels of the Lucerys death.
Right, yeah. And like, it also makes sense that Damon would say...
Damon would be the one.
If you can't find Eamon, just take a son for his son. Like, Rhaenyra, I don't think would ever say, like, just murder.
And based on what we saw on the Next Time episode, it looks like she's giving Damon some sauce. I bet it's about that. I bet she's going to be like, because she says something like, you've weakened my claim. I bet she's saying, like, you make me look as bad as them kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? Like, they really could have ridden on the coattails of Luke's death for, you know, a little bit and made, like, the small folk be like...
So longer than 3 days? Or?
I mean, well, how fast do ravens travel? You got to get it out quick. But that's everything I had. Do you have more on that you want to throw in there?
No, that's pretty much it. I'll add that one of the, like, things where Blood and Cheese were reasoning with which kid to kill, I couldn't tell the difference in the looks facially of those kids.
Me either.
But there was definitively, like, one that's older and one that's younger.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe they could have just judged by that.
They weren't top brass. Like I said, like we talked. Cheese was not a bright guy.
Yeah.
He had some lines where you're kind of like, oh, yeah, this is one of those
Makes
dudes.
sense.
And
he kicked the dog. He kicked the fucking dog.
When he kicked the dog, I was like, now I hope he fails.
Yeah.
I hoped he failed anyway, because it's Team Greens. It was uncool. And it just goes to show you that Damon and Rhaenyra are merciless killers of children.
Damon.
And Rhaenyra. You're right. Rating. We're here to the segments now. I've accepted that the rating is part of the segment.
Wow.
I on that? I don't even remember.
No, I was on that side.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. We can run with it. We'll see how I feel next week.
My rating's 7.5.
Really?
You know, it's it is what an episode 1 is gonna be.
Yeah.
Right? It's building up things. The only negative that I had throughout the whole episode was I thought it was a missed opportunity not showing the Vale of Arryn and more of, like, Winterfell and the Starks.
I agree.
So, but overall, yeah, strong episode. I think Rhaenyra really carried it with, like, no lines.
Oh yeah.
Jace is making a strong impression, and then of course, like, Aegon, I thought was kind of the star of this episode. So
100% agree with all that. I gave it a 7.25. No joke.
Yeah, you're a little stingy with that quarter of a point.
You know, you got to earn it. And I felt like a little longer on the Kristen Cole Allison scene, and I would have been like probably an 8. But I agree. It was a strong episode. Rhaenyra and Jace acting class. Just the crying and the facial expressions. Also, Helena as well.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that was an Aegon episode. He stole the show. He stole the episode. I think he stole a lot of you guys' hearts, too. And I'm looking forward to that happening often with Aegon.
I don't know about stealing hearts. But.
Best line, yes, Queen. Listen. Let's. You want to lead it off? You want me to lead it off?
Yeah, I'll lead it off here.
Yeah, go for it.
So, my best line... Well, actually, my Yas Queen... We'll go back to my best line. My Yas Queen was when Daemon said... he was speaking to Rhaenys, and he said, what would happen if Aemon were to come across Rhaenyra going to, you know...
Yeah.
Why is it slipping my mind? Storm's End.
Yeah.
And Rhaenys says, then I would pity Aemon.
I had the same Yas Queen.
It was a good one.
It happens. We've done this before where we'll get the same one. We don't converse when we do this. This is all our own, but I had the same exact one. I agree.
And my best line's paraphrasing here, because I didn't get the exact quote down, but it was when Eric was speaking to Daemon. So Daemon's on the receiving end of a lot of these. Yes. And he basically says, you know, we swore an oath to defend the whole royal family. What did you want me to do when you guys turned against each other? So that was my best.
I loved it. Mine was when Helena told Aegon when he was in there hanging out with her and all the maids that she was like afraid. And you know, he said like, well, you don't need to be afraid of dragons. Aemond is up there in Vhagar. And she goes, not the dragons, the rats. Very prophetic. She's a dreamer. But unlike Aegon and unlike, I forgot what her name was, who saw the doom. Her name was like Daenerys. It was like a Daenerys type name. The Targaryens have dreamers. And She sadly, because again, as we discussed, Helena has a bit of probably a bit of mental disorder, right? That she's not able to put the pieces together, but she's foreseeing the rats, and of course, Blood and Cheese are what those hitmen become known as. The rat catcher would assassinate her eldest son, Jaharis.
If only she could put clarity behind her visions like Danny's could, then.
Dude, I would take her to the slums of Fleabottom and be gambling on like all sorts of sporting events. Hottest moment for me, I'll go first for this one. Kristen giving Allison the business a little green on green love. You love to see it. Quite frankly, anyone who has a problem with that scene, I think it's a bad take. It's just good to see Allison, like I said, having those moments to relax and just sort of kick the feet up.
Some R&R.
Little R&R. We all could use it sometimes. Just relaxation, I'm saying, in general. Yeah. She's doing it in her own way. Sometimes I like a long walk or video games also. But this is how she was doing it.
So her relaxation's cunnilingus.
Yeah, it's just Kristen Cole, the human vibrator. And she gets him in the mix.
Cunnilingus Cole.
Yeah, this guy's got more nicknames, man. I love it.
Yeah, he really wants that girlfriend. So my hottest moment was when Rhaenyra and Jace see each other for the first time since Luke's death.
That was a great scene.
It was a great scene. We already talked about it, so I won't dive more into it.
I might have been teary-eyed.
It was powerful.
I got some mists. I was like, why are they still sad?
It was powerful. I think there was so much there between a mom's compassion for her son,
an older brother,
and an heir to the throne trying to keep on a strong face, and so there's a lot communicated there beyond the words of what we saw.
Totally agree. And Mount Rushmore. And what are we doing?
So, in honor of Father's Day, we're doing a Mount Rushmore of the worst dads. And this will cover both series. So, House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones.
You ever heard of it? So, we're going to be doing both House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones. And it's Father's Day. We like to keep things positive. But Westeros is full of bad dads, and I feel like it's fair that we rank them accordingly.
Honestly, I don't know that I'd be able to... Coming up with 8 good dads would be kind of hard.
It's tough. It's tough.
So worst is better. I'll lead us off. The OG bad dad, Robert Baratheon.
That's fair.
Really didn't set his kids up for success. Well, his alleged kids up for success. So, number 1.
I'm gonna take his brother, Stannis Baratheon.
Good old Stan.
He burned his daughter at the stake. Tough to beat.
That is, yeah.
Tough to beat. Dude, imagine you don't clean your room and your parents are like, you come outside for a little bit.
Yeah, you really shouldn't be burning your children alive.
You want to stand next to that post real quick?
I'm going to go with Otto Hightower.
Just hard to, okay.
Just to sell your daughter off just because you want a little bit of power.
What the fuck did I tell you about this before? We're not doing this today. That's fair.
And then beyond that, to thrust your family into quote unquote family. He doesn't really care about the Targaryens.
Yeah.
It's just a vehicle to power for him. But to thrust them into war and start killing each other because of your own ambitions, awful father.
Yeah, gotcha. Vehicle to power also is a cool phrase. I like that. I'm gonna start calling my car that. This is my vehicle to power. As I'm driving through Wendy's. My second pick will be Craster of Craster's Keep from Game of Thrones.
Awful dad.
A pretty bad dad on account of the fact that he essentially just has continuous incestuous relationships with his daughters and the children they birth. But if you're a son, he gives you to the White Walkers.
Yeah.
Pretty tough. Again, doesn't seem cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a bad dad.
That's a bad dad.
That's a bad dad. This one might be a little controversial, but I'm gonna say Ned Stark.
Okay. No, that's fair.
And not in the sense that he didn't love his kids. It's just, I don't think he set them up for success with how gullible he was.
Yeah.
The values that he instilled probably led to Rob getting killed and shit.
For sure. Way too honorable.
Yeah.
To a fault. My third pick will be Tywin Lannister. Because, listen, in terms of the world and game, he's the best. No one played the game better, but we're talking about the parenting aspect. And you rewatch Game of Thrones. Jaime, Cersei, yes, he wanted Tyrion dead. So that's bad. But he also, Jaime and Cersei fucking, hated him too.
Yeah, I imagine it's tough to rear two children when they're smanging each other.
Yeah, when they're rearing each other.
Yeah, when your rears are rearing each other.
Yeah, it's real difficult. And then Tyrion, and like in Tywin's defense, like the story of Tyrion's youth with his marriage, like if you're Tywin, you're like, okay, dude, that I would have been mad too. He went about it the wrong way.
He definitely did.
But, you know, he had some genuine moments with Tyrion too, where he's like, you're my son. You know, he did a lot of that. But he also was hot and cold with it, because other times he'd be like, I wanted to walk into the ocean when you were born with your body. You know, it's like, come on, man.
Yeah, bad dad. Mm-hmm. This one I think is you know, kind of a offshoot character, but a really bad dad. Balon Greyjoy.
Yeah, no, it's great.
You know, you start a rebellion, you lose said rebellion, so then you just give up your son.
The other ones die in the rebellion, right?
Yeah, the other sons die in the rebellion, and then like when your son comes back, you basically. You know, berate him for, like, your own mistakes.
Yeah.
All-time bad dad.
All-time bad dad. That's an all-time bad dad move. I'm going to go with a House of the Dragon character, and I'm going to go with Harwin Strong. No, Lionel Strong. Okay. That's the dad's name.
Yeah.
His sons were Harwin and Larys. And the reason he's a bad dad is because how are you the hand of the king, and you don't know that your son is, like, coming up in a big way? Like, shouldn't he have his own spy network that's kind of like focusing on Larys? Or why didn't he get Larys into his employ and be like, listen, bud, someday you're going to fill these shoes. Let me die of natural causes, but be my ears. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very negligent.
I agree.
I guess the counterpoint would be like you maybe trust your son a little bit.
Yeah, I had a really good draft until that one.
But no, I mean that's a good pick. That's a good pick. I like it. So this segment.
Oh, one of our all-time favorites. It's You Blew
staple.
It. I got to use my phone for this. But I also realized before the pod we talked about this, I was like, I can't have my phone out. But also we should keep our phones on the table like Adam Schefter does. Because the reason he does it when he's on ESPN is because he thinks it looks cool, but he knows it looks cool. Because it looks like at any moment, like we're gonna, like HBO's gonna call us and be like, "You're never gonna believe it," you know. 10,000 ships was picked up, and be like, "Well, we got to tell you," you know. So we should keep it on the table.
George is gonna call us like, "Oh,"
and he's like,
"When's the
characters are so great. They're black and white, and they're capable of great good." We're like, George, not now, man. This is all you say. I'm tired of you calling me and saying this all hours of the day. So this is You Blew It, our time favorite. Do you want to blow it first, or should I blow it first?
Oh.
Just answer the question.
I suppose I'll blow it first.
All right. Go for it.
My You Blew It was Blood and Cheese just basically botching the whole assassination, missing their target, and just killing a young boy.
Yeah.
Blood and Cheese. You blew it.
You blew it, Blood and Cheese. And honestly, I almost did them as well, but I did people associated with the Blood and Cheese, which is the Kingsguard. The heir to the throne is in the room taking a little nappy nap, and you guys are nowhere to be found.
Well, you're fucking the queen.
Oh, yeah.
You're literally...
It's true. In a couple of ways. You know?
It's true.
You know, the one queen kind of residually got fucked a little bit.
Yeah.
So, Kristen Cole and the rest of the Kingsguard. You blew it. I don't particularly love Kristen Cole. He's an ally, but I don't love him.
I hope that they at least kind of discuss. There should be some ramifications for the Kingsguard not having a guard on the door.
And I feel like Helena is not known for holding her tongue. Like next time she sees Otto, she might be like, "I was so scared and I ran into the room and Mother was getting a pony ride from Kristen," or something, something like that. Like, and then Otto will be like, "Your Grace, your daughter," something like that. New segment alert.
New segment.
Pew, 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 pew. We don't have horn noises in the budget, so we have to acapella it.
I think I actually have that app.
Do you? If you don't, this is bad radio, but I'm fine with the effort.
Horn?
It's worth it if you have it.
Oh, fuck yeah.
You do have it? All right. New segment alert. You guys are so hyped. So we are...
That was pretty loud. That was louder than I thought.
It'll fix it. We'll correct it in post.
Okay.
Good news, folks. New segment. It is called Crown Their Ass, which essentially is us picking our MVP of the episode, crowning them. Who's the king or queen of the episode? Chris, I will let you do the inaugural.
Oh, wow.
Crown Their Ass.
Okay. Well, Mine probably isn't an obvious choice, but I'm going with Corlys Valerian.
Corlys.
And I think as far as like the first decisions and acts to be made in a war, starting that blockade and cutting off trade to King's Landing is a big move.
Smart move.
So Corlys Valerian. Then crown their ass.
Crown their ass. He is who we thought he was. I'm going to say that right now. And you know who isn't who we thought he was? Aegon. Because we all had bad impressions of him season 1. He earned it a little bit, but I think he's getting into our good graces. He's earning our respect back. And mine crown he's already crowned. He's the king of the 7 kingdoms, rightfully the magnanimous. So Aegon.
If you want to crown him, then crown their ass.
I just did, sir.
I would have also chosen Aegon, but I knew you were going to choose Aegon, so I didn't. And also I can't really.
You can't condone
that's
the Greens. It's a treasonous
line,
statement.
Yeah, that's a line that I'm not prepared to cross.
Rhaenyra's like, I want Chris Sims.
Oh gosh, I wish.
Oh, I know, dude. Honestly, same a little bit. Can you imagine? Because like she would know that I'm Team Greens too. It'd be pretty. Oh yeah, pretty passionate. You don't need. I already know where you're going.
Killed.
Don't even need to say anything. Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Dude, Sheedy Cuck.
Sheedy Cuck. Well, yeah, John. It would be like John Cuck. John Von Cuck. Strategy with Lord Mims, another favorite of mine. This is this question I thought of, Chris, during the episode. If you were Rhaenyra, now obviously she's away when this conversation happens, but would you have sent Daemon and Rhaenys to kill Vhagar directly? Like, let's just do a blitzkrieg kind of strategy, straight to King's Landing. We kill Vhagar. And by that point, like, what do they got left? Sunfire and whoever Helena drives? Like, who cares?
Drives.
So vehicle to power?
So the answer to the question is no, I would not advise on a direct attack to King's Landing. And the reason is they don't necessarily have an advantage on dragons. I mean, right. Sunfire and Vhagar are very... I mean, Vhagar is like the top of the line, but right. Sunfire is very capable in their own rights, and to show up with melees and Caraxes, even if you had Jace's dragon too, it's not a guaranteed win.
I agree with that, even if it's just Vhagar.
Yeah,
it's not guaranteed. Like if Daemon and Rhaenys go there on their dragons, it's not guaranteed. Like it's tighter with the two. For sure.
And you got to imagine they're going to take some arrows and scorpions before they even get past King's Landing's wall. So yeah, it'd be a boneheaded decision, quite frankly.
Gotcha. So was that a bad question? Did I ask a bad question?
No, because
you can be honest in front of my friends.
No. Daemon wanted to do it.
That's true.
So
that's true.
You know, it's not like it was your question. It's Daemon's.
And Rhaenys correctly was like, "Listen, Rhaenyra's not going to go for this shit. So relax." Awesome, great answer.
And one of the conversations they have in Fire and Blood is essentially like at this war council, the Black's war council. They talk about, you know, what's our advantage, what's our weaknesses. They mentioned the Valyrian fleet, which we already see in action.
Massive advantage.
They mentioned the dragons, but the counterpoint is, like we just talked about, the Greens also have dragons. So that leads to the conversation of, well, how do we get more dragons? And I think in the next episode, we'll probably see some of those seeds.
The dragon seeds.
Being planted. So more to come there.
Perfect. Very cool. Our final segment, which is Trial by Combat, which is where I come up with a show or a movie. And I've told you this one in the past, but it's a really passionate to me. And with House of the Dragon Season 2, we also have, oh my God, a lot of spin-offs in the work. Duncan Egg is coming out next year. It started filming this week. 10,000 Ships is in early development, Aegon's Conquest. And I was like, you know, there's a lot of new, exciting stuff coming out, but they're sort of adaptations of things that already exist, right? George's works. Mm-hmm. So I want to do an adaptation, my own version, of The Mighty Ducks 2.
Okay.
And it's shot for shot, word for word, the same exact movie, with the same actors and stuff. They're just adults now. And Gordon Bombay is their coach. He's like, what is that? Emilio Estevez has been like pushing 70 or something. But it's cool. But every time I watch Mighty Ducks, it's like my favorite movie of all time. So I want it to be The Mighty Ducks 2, same actors. Even Goldberg is back.
Isn't he like?
He's having a rough time.
Did he make it through rehab?
Yeah. I think he has like a podcast now.
Of course, yeah.
Maybe I listen and subscribe. Who knows? But
a lot of us have
podcasts. But there's one opportunity, I think, in this new one. In the old one, there's a very beautiful doctor who is like the team doctor, and her and Gordon are very smitten together. And in the new one, I just feel like there's an opportunity to have a cool, almost a Kristen Cole, Allison style scene between those two. So it's the same exact movie, just everyone's older, word for word the same movie. But in the middle of the movie, there's a sex scene between Gordon Bombay and the team doctor. And I have a vision, and it's hard to say directing, almost it's like a cinematography thing. If you're watching a sex scene in a movie and it's like a 45-second sex scene, that's long. That especially if you're watching with someone you don't want to be watching, see oh god, this is awkward.
Yeah, you're watching.
This is going to be 15 minutes. But my plan, is because I just want But my plan is after a minute and a half, when you're like, Jesus, is this thing going to end? The camera, when a camera pans out a window.
Yeah.
It pans out the window slowly, and you're like, mercifully, this is ending. You get to a tree on the street, and then it just stops and it pans back in, and then for 13 more minutes. The Minnesota Miracle Man, Gordon Bombay, is putting in that work, doing the triple deke in the bedroom.
And then, I bet you, in your vision, the scene of, the guy's butt and balls, from that angle.
And he's doing, he's flying V. And then he says to the other team coach guy, he's like, I totally quacked those cheeks. So that's it, and then it's back to they gotta beat Iceland.
It starts with a text, and it's an autocorrect from wanna duck.
Dude. Oh my god, that's okay. Now I didn't even think about the duck angle. Oh, dude, this is gonna be so good. They're gonna be like, did you see they're remaking Mighty Ducks 2 and it's rated R? What is that? And they're it's the same movie except for that 15-minute sex scene.
Dude, the reviews come in stunning visuals.
Yeah, stunning visuals. The ice was I love that. It's the New York Times raves. That was out of left field. Oh god, that was good fun. Good fun. Great episode. I felt like.
Yeah.
I'm talking about us. The House of the Dragon episode was fine too.
Yeah, it was a good. I think it was a good overall episode.
We always talked about this on the Game of Thrones days. The first episode of the season tends to be and everyone always expects they're going to start with a bang, and it's not really. They tend to start with a little cliffhanger at the end, and it's mostly a mundane setting of pieces.
That's how you build out a story, right? You have it leads up to the climax. And
narrative crescendos throughout, for sure.
Exactly. Solid episode. It feels good being back.
Yes, man. Great to see you, man.
Send us your thoughts. Slide in our DMs, message us, whatever, and then we can circle back and talk about it on Wednesday. Will be the next airing of our show.
Yeah, definitely. We got Deeper Thrones coming out, and I'm good, man. You got anything else?
I'm all good.
And Allison, hit me up. Let's put Kristen back in the cuck chair.
Check out the hand, switch, shoes, in his door. Miss, already just had a ton of y'all to my list. Bitch, death wish, not to be messed with, tested quiz. They shooting shots.